Hey, what's up everybody, BDF 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so all checked in and no ho, feeling good. Didn't have to wait too long. I got 10 minutes at the most today. Man, walk down and go get some funds for tomorrow. So they don't have to be done in the morning or nothing. I gotta rush around trying to figure out how to do that. It's already in the account, let's go snatch it out of there. So that's the plan right now. I feel a little lightheaded, a little dizzy, and the reason why is because that man was hitting all the speed bumps hella fast on the way here, and I'm not used to being in vehicles like that no more, little compact vehicles. So what I found myself doing was getting a headache in there, man, messing with him. But the ride over was quiet, didn't have too many problems other than that. But now I need some fresh air. But yeah, man. What was I gonna say? I had a strange dream, but to be honest with you, it's one of them situations where at the end of the day, what I walked away from it, without telling y'all what the dream is, because it's kind of disturbing in a way that I don't even want to talk about, but what I walked away from it understanding was that sometimes our advances as men can be negative toward women, or if you're a gay or a bi man, toward men, it can be unwanted. And the most important thing we need to remember is that what feels good to you may not look good to others and may definitely not feel good to others. So while you can be reading whatever you're reading into somebody's behavior, if you take from them what you think is the goal for advancement, you had better be sure that that is exactly what is wanted in the situation. That's dream put me on the wrong end of that. That's what I will say. The dream put me on the wrong end of that. And that's pretty much it. I told my homegirl Kay about that dream, and I told her I wouldn't tell nobody else because it was that weird. So I'm gonna hold my word and just not really get into that dream too much other than to say that. But what I will say is this: there was an aspect of that dream that I think is worthy talking about, and that was when I was leaving where I was at. I went outside and it was raining just like it had been in this neighborhood for the last 2 days. It was raining, and what ended up, it was water coming down, but what was going on was that it was a lot of, I'll say, frogs and turtles is what landed, more or less what it seemed like to me. Water coming down, but as it hit the ground, it turned into turtles, turned into frogs, turned into little white beetle-like bugs. Those three were starting to come down, and when it did, the further I walked to try to get back to my vehicle, the more it came down and started to rise as if it were water. You understand what I mean? And eventually, after maybe taking 7 or 8 steps, I had these frogs, mostly turtles, and bugs up to my neck. And what I started to think, because there were other people next to me in this situation who were also trying to get wherever they were going and this was happening, but what I realized is I was getting the worst of it. And the one thing that I wasn't doing that everybody else was doing was trying to save the frog, the bird, the turtles and frogs. People were trying to carry as many of them as they can to try to keep from stepping on them. And I was just trying to get the hell out of it. I was just stepping. I didn't care about what I was stepping on. I didn't have no empathy for no damn turtles. They shouldn't have been on the ground. Like, that was my attitude in the dream. And as a result, by the time I woke up out of that dream, I was drowning in turtles, frogs, and white little beetle bugs. And it just made me wonder, as I was going through that in a dream, it made me wonder, is it my lack of compassion and empathy that's making it so that I'm drowning? And that was what I took from it. That was what my thought was, as not, oh my God, this is nasty, oh my God, I'm scared, but it's like, what am I doing that everybody ain't doing? And what they were doing was trying to save them. What I was doing was not giving a damn, trying to save myself. And as a result, I was the one covered in them. So that was something that was really important to me to take from that particular dream. So yeah, man. But be careful with them advancements, man. That's why I tell all men, all women who are aggressive, we got to be very, very careful with our advancements. Make sure that they are wanted, man. And it ain't just limited to physical stuff too. Sometimes you want to say certain things. Sometimes you want to, send pictures of yourself or stuff like that. You could really be harassing somebody, man. You could really be harassing. You could really be making somebody feel uncomfortable. You could really make somebody feel like they have to explain to you in a very awkward and uncomfortable way that those things are not wanted. And if they're not confrontational, they can be very uncomfortable or maybe even difficult for them, impossible or what have you. It ain't something that you want attached to your name. That's what I know. And I had never gone through that in real life. I had been through what I had been through, and y'all know about that, but nothing like that as a grown person or as a teenager to where somebody was trying to push up on me and I didn't want that. I had never been through nothing like that. But in the dream, that's exactly the circumstance I found myself in. You know what I mean? I had to. And it was one of those things where it's like, I think it was important that I had some sense of perspective of how that feels. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta know how that feels so that you never put anybody in that position. Or that if you do put somebody in that position, you understand what it is you're doing to them. And you understand why you're not going to be respected, appreciated, or why they may have to defend themselves against you and why you're getting lashed out at. Because, it's for me, I can't speak to nobody else's experience, although a lot of men, I'm sure we have this experience. We don't have these problems. When we go on the bus or go on the train, go out and about in certain worlds. Now, as it pertains, and when I say certain worlds, I mean like on this level. To where a lot of women on this level, they have men sit next to them on the bus, try to touch on them, try to push up on them every day, all day long. This men trying to get at them and stuff, and that's just the role that unfortunately they're forced to play as women. I've seen all types of had all types of people come to me telling me they've had these experiences. Women that were universally considered beautiful, women that were not considered beautiful, whatever the case may be, they all have, in a lot of cases, not all have, but in many cases, they've told me that they've experienced this at different methods of frequency. It may not happen as much for some as it does for others, but women don't like getting on the bus, don't like getting on the train, don't like going to certain places where there's a lot of people, because they're going to get uncomfortable circumstances happening with them. As a man, in my whole life, I had those problems. In my whole life, like, I had a drunk woman once walk up to me in a club, and, she was trying to push up on me in a way that I wasn't really feeling, but it wasn't like it was too difficult for me to put it into that behavior, you know what I mean? So it's like, for me, I ain't had no experience like that. So in this dream, it felt very real, and it put me in a space where I had to think like this is happening to me. And now I have to either defend myself or deal with it. And it's like, how do you do that? You know what I mean? And it's like, that's not a perspective that we get to experience too often as men. And I don't know that I envy anybody who has to go through that. You know what I mean? I've heard of guys going through that, especially in the entertainment business, to where you're expected to comply with behaviors, because if you don't, it's gonna cost you. I've heard of women, of course, going through that plenty, but like on this level, we don't go through that. Never go through that. That's not something that's gonna happen in your world at all. You know what I mean? It's just not. And so for me, it's like, all right, that dream put me in a position to have a certain understanding. Like, yeah, this is how that feels to a degree. This is what I see if I were put in that position. Not to say that I can relate to anybody, because I don't know how people react to certain things. What fears may come into your heart and your mind when you go through something like that. But for me, it put me in a defensive perspective to say, now I got to defend myself against somebody who means me well, but only to a point that makes them feel well, if that makes any sense. Like, they don't mean harm, but they still trying to provide something that I don't welcome. You know what I mean? It's like, how do I do this properly? How do I get this person off of me without making the situation violent? You know what I mean? And in real life, you probably just make the situation violent, if I'm being completely honest with you. But I think I was in a specific mindset in the dream to where it put me in a position to where I didn't quite understand how to handle it, as opposed to, man, I'm socking the shit out of it. That's how that's going to go in real life. It's not, you ain't going to get that close. You know what I mean? So yeah, I get the point of what it was. But I woke up with a certain sense of perspective to say, yeah, no, that's not how I want to represent myself in any way. And I better tell people to the best of my ability without breaking my word about this dream and how it made me feel, if I may say so, in that way. It wasn't positive. I didn't welcome that. I didn't want that energy. And so that's what I wanted to say, man. Be respectful of one another to the best of your ability of how to do so. Not everybody was raised the same way. Some people are sick in the head, you know what I mean? Whatever the case, but you do not want to put yourself in a position to be seen as somebody who does this to somebody, because at the end of the day, people like that get the worst of consequences attached to them. The worst of consequences, I'll tell you the truth. And so that's what I have to say about that. Don't make other people have to defend themselves against your urges. That's what I will say. So yeah, man, that's what came to mind. I walked away from that dream very uncomfortable, man. Completely honest with you. Just on all fronts. Both parts of the dream. Very uncomfortable. And so, you know, it's one of them situations where it's like this. And I'll add this to it as well, because this was a part of the dream. How I handled the situation was, I didn't punch that person. I didn't push that person off me. I told that person, if I were someone who would want that from you, you would have heard me verbalize that, because I'm not ashamed of the experiences that I've been through in my life. So if I was welcoming of any energy of any sort, that would be something that'd be written all over my personality, because I'm an open book to begin with. So you don't have to wonder about me, because I'm an open book any damn way. But I understand that not everybody is. Some people, they don't get to live in their truth. Some people, maybe they want to live in their truth, but for whatever reason, because of their environment, they don't get that. That's not a reality for them. Not without consequences that are not worth it to them. You know? And so for me, it's like, I'm fortunate enough to live in a space where that's not my fight, where the Lord has created a way for me to be myself without having to tell people, yo, accept me. You know what I'm saying? And that's not something I think everybody has. And I don't shun people for not being able to speak their truth. I think it would be a wonderful world if everybody were upfront with the people they were with. But just the same, not everybody has the ability to do that without harsh consequences. And I hear about that, you know, I think about people that out people. You know, or you know, you look at the situation with Shannon Sharp, for example, where he was very close to his personal trainer, or not personal trainer, but his stylist, who happened to be a man. If for us as men who look at that, who are of a certain age, we don't really have too many questions about that, to be completely honest with you, because you're going to automatically assume that it just is that. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't really have any questions about Shannon Sharp. I think the reality of Shannon Sharp's situation is that he never told anybody what he wanted to do in his life in that regard. He don't parade around as somebody who's open to being that in any way attracted to men. And so for him, it's like, when you're in this community, the black community, you're gonna, especially if you parade around as a straight person, it may not be in your best interest, especially if you're successful, to come out if you don't want a certain type of bigotry pointed at you by your own people. And this is important because it's something that we need to understand. I'm not going to crap on my community and to say that we are homophobic, but there's a great deal of us who are. We're raised that way. Religiously, we believe that it's against God, and a lot of times in our household, it's not something that is smiled upon in any way. You know, people, now once we know who you are, we're going to respect you. There's a lot of people around us who may be that, and they've always been that, and there will no other way for them to live. But if you pretended to be straight and you turn out to be alternate in that way, you're going to face consequences. You're going to face a certain energy that you do not welcome from your own people. It just is what it is. If you're Jamaican, you bet not be. You know, it's that kind of thing. If you certain types of African, you bet not be. They don't play with that. And so to tell people that they need to come out, I think all of us who are straight and who don't have alternate ideas about how we want to go about that business, we need to respect that we ain't gonna be taking on what they take on. The world we in ain't the world they in. The people who walk around and don't look at us twice, gonna give them hell for being in the closet. And so for me, it's like, I don't relate to that in any way, to be completely honest with you all. But I'm able, as a creative, to put myself in people's shoes. To say that I think I know how that would feel. And I don't envy individuals who are comfortable within themselves, but don't want the drama that come with telling people that they're not straight. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, I think, who are comfortable in their own skin in that way, they don't get that in some cases. They may shun those people because it's like, yo, I live in my truth. Why can't you live in it? Because you've always lived in your truth and you ain't never had to tell nobody different. And now, if somebody's out in this individual who's been pretending they straight, now all of a sudden they gotta live in a world where people are looking at them as not only different, and whatever definition that looks like, but also liars. And so it's like, yeah, I was thanking God last night that he didn't give me that fight. And I have my own mental health issues and different things that I struggle with, but not that one. I've known who I was in that way since birth. I was attracted to women when I was 4 years old, 3 years old. I was already digging into magazines I had no business digging into. It never was a question. And so because of it, it's like it took a dream like that to kind of put me in a position to have these type of thoughts and have this type of empathy for people who may be different. And I know that there are a lot of people who follow me who may be different than me. And maybe I don't agree with having to see you interact as you do comfortably, because it doesn't feel comfortable for me to see that. I'm not going to lie to anyone. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to shun you for being that way, or that I'm going to be a part of that community that looks at you and says, you need to come on out. It may not be in your best interest based on what your lifestyle is and your comfort level is to do so. And I think it's okay to have that conversation, because we know it ain't a beautiful world for people like that. It may be if they're comfortable in their truth and they flamboyant and they live a certain way. Yeah, you're gonna have people hate you, but people are gonna accept you, or they better. But for some people who are not strong in that way, or for some people who've never been accepted in their household that way, that's a hurdle they don't want to face. They don't want to jump out the window in that way. They don't want what come with it, and they shouldn't be forced to. And it took a great deal of maturity for me to think that. You know, I had friends in the past that I thought were in the closet, people I had questions about, but I didn't respect that they could stay there and it not be the worst thing in the world until I got to a certain maturity level that's starting to come around now. I always thought that was a little disingenuous, maybe would be the word, maybe weak of them to not live in their truth. But now it's like, You just get a little older, you start seeing how the world treats people like that. It's like, no, maybe they should probably stay there until they feel like coming out. Or maybe, and dare I throw something else in there, maybe that's the preference itself. Maybe that's what makes it what it is, that they stay in the closet. Once they got to come out, it don't hit the same, so to speak. A lot of us, we can't fathom that because we don't know the first thing about that. But that's a real thing for a lot of people. Their preference is to stay this way. And that's what makes it what it is. Rather than you knowing about it, ruining that whole way. And so it's like, the Lord just put that in my heart to understand, like, some people, they don't know who they are yet. And this is a real one right here. Some people, they don't know who the hell they are. They didn't get the privilege of knowing what is okay or what their preference was when they was 4 years old, like I did. They didn't know. They never even looked at it like that. They were pointed in a certain direction. Or they were told it's so bad that they would never even go in that direction because it's shunned until they got out in the world and realized, yo, I got some different type of feelings. I'm a little different. I don't understand this, but I know I don't respect it because I don't respect it in nobody else. And then they start to grow into being comfortable with themselves, hopefully. But they can't go off and tell you what they are because they honestly ain't figured it out yet. And so for you to out them is to put a declaration upon them that they haven't defined. And I think I have a friend of mine that might be going through that as well. It's like, I don't want to put that pressure on that person to say, who are you? When that person is still trying to figure that out. Or, I know you're this, and they don't know. It's not as simple as to say, because they like this, they are gay. And then it's word semantics. You know what I mean? The people play, I'm not gay, but they do like dudes, so they bi. They're not bi, but because in their definition of it, it's only about relationships, and so they just want to have sex. It's just, you know what I mean? A lot of people, they toy around with the definitions to keep from having to expose whatever their truth is. And that gets complicated. Or, you know, a lot of transgender people, they don't consider themselves what it is they were born to be. So technically, if you don't accept them as what it is that you don't believe they are, then you're being offensive, which is something I don't agree with. That's unfortunate, because a person like myself, if I find out you were born a man, I don't want to be considered offensive to you when you no longer fit the preference of myself. And I find out you're a dude, I want you, you know what I mean? Simply put, you're going to have to move on out the way. I don't care what you look like today, how well the doctor put you together. If you were born with the same thing I was born with, I don't want you. And a lot of people are extremely offended by that. And in my point of view, that's extremely selfish of them. I don't get to have a preference because you have yours? How does that work? How does that work? Because you got a preference, I don't get to have my own? Because you prefer me, I don't have the right to not prefer you? And that's where it becomes really, really important for a lot of us who are males, who are engaging in whatever it is that we want to with certain females who may not know who they are. Or a lot of women, just the same, who are not wanted by a certain straight male, and then they label him gay because he don't want them. These are unfair things that people do to one another that I'm aware of. And so it's like, you know, engaging in that type of behavior to me is very selfish. It's very dismissive of the idea that people can just simply not want you. And two, may not know who they are just the same, but it don't mean they're going to turn away the next person. They just don't want you. And that's hard for a lot of people to swallow, especially people who are self-centered in nature, insecure in nature in some cases, or whatever their traits would be that have them acting like that. I would not have wanted to have this conversation 6 years ago, because I would have been thinking that people thought of me as if I understand too much about this to where I have to be a certain way. But as you get older, to a point where you're like, I'm almost 40, I know I don't have any questions about my sexuality. They're none. I've been on this earth for 40 years. I know exactly what I like and what I don't. Very simple. And so it's like, whether you believe I'm a certain way or not doesn't hold any weight or value. And because I'm straight, I get to live in my truth very comfortably because I know everybody's going to accept me. Which is fortunate for me, but unfortunate for those who are just as comfortable who may not be straight. You understand? And that's my point of view. They don't have to necessarily see it that way. But all the more true to me, if you pride yourself on being a good person or a civilized human being, we got to start working these things into our equation. It may not be in somebody's best interest to start telling you whatever it is that'll make you feel better about who they are. It may not be your business to know why they're hanging out with such and such or so and so. And I tell you what, I can fathom a world where Shannon Sharp ain't gay or ain't bi or ain't anything like that. I can fathom a world where that's the case. But in the world that I am aware of and the one that I'm in a lot of cases, he does like men. That person who hangs with that person like that, that person does like men. In the world I'm from. But just because I believe that doesn't mean I get to get on here and tell you that I'm certain Shannon Sharp likes men. Because like I said, I can fathom a world where he don't. He's just really comfortable in himself and his own skin like me, to where he can have his gay friend next to him and that be the only person next to him at a basketball game. Maybe that's how comfortable he is in his skin. Maybe that's the relationship he has with that person. And hey, that's that cool. He know how I get down, so I ain't even gotta. And we can go out because we that comfortable. But I can tell you this, in the community that I know of, straight men aren't gonna do that because they don't want the attention that comes with people treating us as if we're something we're not. That's the truth. If we're gonna have that person next to us, it's because they are our person we're next to, if you know what I mean. That's just true. And that's the unspoken truth that is going around and ain't nobody really gonna say. But just the same, it don't mean that man gay. Because he may not be in love with a man. He just may want to be next to a man. And then by definition of semantics, how that goes, he ain't gay. Or maybe he like both, so he ain't gay. You understand what I'm saying? So it's very, very selective. And it's very specific. And it's much more intricate than I understand because I'm a regular cis straight man. You know what I mean? I don't have to dive into that. I'm not curious about that, so I'm not looking into the science of it. All the different genders and stuff like that, I don't have to look into it. I'm not, you know what I mean? Curiosity would make it so that you become more knowledgeable. I'm not curious, to be honest with you. And it don't mean you like the same sex because you want to become knowledgeable. I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you that it's not something that I'm looking into because I'm straight and don't have any desire to get too far into it. Now, if my son or my daughter decides they are identifying differently, then I probably would be best to know. If my brother or my sister came to me and say, yo, I identify differently, this is something I probably should know. You understand what I'm saying? I should know more. But again, I come from a world where I don't welcome certain things, especially since I don't need that in my life. You know what I mean? I don't need the attention that comes with people treating me as if. Don't need that. Especially when it ain't me. You know what I mean? And so that's really what it comes down to. I wanted to give y'all the perfect space of where I'm in regards to that. I remember having conversations about that. When I first started the channel, I had a different point of view. I was very uncomfortable with how I was being treated by certain men that I think identified differently because I wasn't comfortable engaging in them in a certain way. So I felt like they were treating me a certain way because of it. And we talked about that many years ago, way, way back at the beginning of the channel. And I don't think I've been around any openly gay men since in that way. Don't think so. I had to work with those individuals. You know what I mean? It was that kind of thing. So from my perspective, I speak for myself, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to be close to a gay man in my walk of life. Not from where I'm at. It's not needed. You know what I mean? That's not something I'm looking for. I'm not looking for gay friends. I don't want to have people lead it on by my super openness to be inclusive of everybody. That's not a good thing when you really consider how I view what the energy that comes with that is. You see what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about from that person. I'm talking about from the community. And that's unfortunate. I wish we were better than that. I wish I viewed us better than that. But I don't. And so that's what I wanted to say, man. I don't know what will come with that. That person may very well not have no interest in me and would love to be my friend. You see what I'm saying? But I still don't know what will come with that. I remember my homegirl, Delicia. She brought her cousin with her, who was identified as different in that way. Not sure what he identifies as. Didn't ask. But he came with us to my birthday party. It was me, Delicia, Karen, and her cousin. And I tried my very best to be as comfortable as I could. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was comfortable. But just the same, I was aware of the fact that I was being looked at. And people were probably, maybe not, wondering if I was with that person, if I was with that one, or if I'm with that one. And the person who was her cousin, wish I knew his name, her name, I don't know how she identifies, sat next to me. And the two ladies sat across from us. I tried my best to be comfortable. I tried. But I cannot deny that I was self-aware of the environment and what could be because of that. I can't deny it. Self-conscious is the word. Not self-aware, but self-conscious. Like, look around, like, do y'all, you know what I'm saying? Y'all think I'm with this person? I think that's a natural space for a lot of us men who are straight and have not been exposed to a lot of people who are from a different walk of life in that way, of different genders. I think that's safe for us, because it's like, do people think I'm with this person? And so when I look at Shannon being comfortable in that space, it tells me that he's comfortable in that space. For whatever that's worth. That means two different things. And I hope y'all reading into it. He just may not necessarily want to label himself anything, so that y'all don't get all on his grill about what comes with his choices. Why he's this way, why he want to be that way. But then again, that may be my own insecurities projecting onto him. Just the same. I'm never convinced. Too smart to be convinced of anything. But that's what it looks like to me. That he's rather comfortable. He just don't want to tell y'all how comfortable he is. That's what it comes off to me. And maybe that holds some value. Maybe don't. Maybe that's not what it is. But since everybody's running around calling him gay, you know what I mean, that kind of thing, I figured I'd weigh in, especially after the dream I had. But for which at this point, the only reason why I didn't tell y'all is to keep my word to my friend who I told I wouldn't tell nobody. Plus, it was somebody in that dream that was famous. And because that person was famous, I don't want to put that out on the internet, because I don't know these people. They may not have nothing to do with that energy. I don't even sense that energy on them. They just happen to be in a dream. And just like dreams do, I had seen that person in something before I went to sleep. So for all I know, that's the only reason why they were the subject. I talk about spirituality too much. I talk about intuitive stuff too much for people to hear me say that and then not walk away and think I'm tapping into something. There are going to be people who watch me and think, yo, that person he talk about gotta be this, because that's how BDF, nah. I don't know what that person is, so I ain't gonna name them, I ain't gonna put that out there. But that's what it is. You got the gist of the dream. I was in a very uncomfortable position like that in the dream. And I had to tell that person, like, yo, I've been through some things. I'm telling you what I've been through. And I would tell you just the same if this was something I welcome. I don't welcome this. And that's what I tell all of y'all. I don't welcome that. But this is my perspective on the entire conversation, to my best description of the feelings. And I'm accepting of people to the best of my ability. But I don't want to be questioned or treated as if I'm welcoming things that I don't, because our community can be rather cruel to people like that. And I think we get enough cruel energy from other people a lot of times to where to do that to each other, we got to grow out of that. Maybe you don't think that God appreciates what they do, but that don't mean you have to treat them so bad that the world sucks for them because of you. That's why I'd like us to grow. Enough of y'all make the world bad for those people. Just like enough racists make the world bad for us. It just gets to a point where it's like, what do you want to contribute to? You can have however you feel. You can feel however you feel, but to treat people poorly or to make people feel like they small, what is it that you want to overall contribute to when it comes to the environment they're in? And if you tell yourself a good person, you really need to study that within yourself. And that's not limited to sexual preferences. That's racism. That's a lot of stuff. Classism. Rule number 1, don't be a dick. I've been saying that for years. Contributing to the overall low nature of other people's self-esteem just means that you are too contributing to what it is that's coming at you that you don't appreciate in some way. Because that person who did you whatever way is just one more person engaging in that energy pointed at you. Whatever that energy may be that you don't appreciate. So that's what I want to say, man. I probably talked too long. I'm going to need more space on this phone so that I can record my video for later on tonight. But I really wanted to give y'all as much of this perspective as I can. As callous as it's going to sound to a lot of people. It's the truth, man. It's not easy for a straight dude to be friends with a gay dude without welcoming certain energy that maybe that straight person don't want. Maybe the gay person don't want that energy too. Maybe it makes them feel uncomfortable because they're not in a space where they can just be next to somebody without someone being self-conscious of what's coming at them while being next to them. It's like, you know what I mean? It just makes for a crappy world when people hate or dislike or shun individuals for the differences they can't change within themselves. So, I guess that's about as much as I can give it. Yeah, that's about as much as I can say, I suppose, man. Peace and blessings to everybody, however you chose to be. And I hope to grow from here. BDF 44, thank you all for watching. I'm out.